By the Eagle of Master Control.
Hello, I'm a voice.
How's it going, Eeks?
It's been a long week, not gonna lie.
Same here. For things unrelated to FPF, unfortunately, it's taken some of the FPF work and delayed it a little bit. My article is coming out tomorrow morning. We're working on something to get it done a little more quickly. For those of you who've noticed, we've started integrating pictures into our articles. Marc-Andre Desaulniers' article, if it's not out just yet, it'll be out shortly, he's assured me, and the next one should follow shortly thereafter. A little bit of a delay. We're trying some new things again this season, like we said. Hopefully it's formats that you'll enjoy. If you have any feedback whatsoever regarding any of our media services, whether it's podcasts, whether it's articles, game of the week, any of that kind of stuff, feel free to reach out and talk to us. This is your league after all. Eagle, we have a Super Bowl lineup for halftime act.
We do.
Jennifer Lopez and Shakira.
Okay.
That was announced today.
Are either of them still relevant in terms of?
That's so like is it? So in the past, I remember, when one year they went John Fogerty. I believe it's John Fogerty, and then of course they got criticized. In Maroon 5, of course, they got criticized for always going with the safe act, and going for acts that are no longer relevant. Are they just more attractive? Safe act? Are they just more attractive safe acts? Or are they just more attractive, pop stars?
You know what I realized? I think it's that as men, we will just watch the game, and it doesn't matter who's doing the Super Bowl show.
Well, that's what I was getting to. Is that it's, to me, it's not important. Because I don't. There's another thing I care less about than the halftime show.
For the average consumer who only watches the Super Bowl, and in fact, if you think of it like our significant others, that's all they're interested in, effectively, right? It's I wonder how the halftime show is going to be, and it's like that's when they're watching, and then afterwards they go run away, do their knitting or whatever they're doing.
Yeah. Well, so look at our Super Bowl party on a yearly basis, right? Like you're there, Justin Blanchard and his soon-to-be wife. Congratulations, Justin Blanchard. Now, clearly. She's marrying.
MVP.
She's marrying. It'll be an MVP wedding. They're there. My parents come by, and my buddy Porch and Angie. Neither of them care anything about football. They're just there for the booze / help with babysitting, / food. And so at halftime, normally we'll use that opportunity to go run, get some more food, get some more beers, get some more. Get some more whiskey in us. That's the opportunity we take.
So basically, the couch seats liberate, and then all the women assemble in front of the television. Watch
where they were just chatting in the dining room. To be honest, my wife does watch football a little bit, so she'll pop her head in and watch a little bit of the game. Some of them do here and there. My mom is basically just hovering around the donuts all night. So essentially, that's what it's there for. It's there to entertain the people who are not going to go watch the game anyway.
But pretty much, ever since the Katy Perry shark, you can't get my attention anymore.
Well,
I'm waiting for that.
That is the highest of the high. You can't beat Left Shark. The other thing, when you look at this is this past year, I spent my halftime dealing with my now wife, who was horribly ill, and then for the week after Super Bowl, I suffered with gastro. My God, don't get gastro. If you have children and they get gastro, sell them. They're not worth it. They're already going to cost you $1 million. Plus, you might get gastro for a week. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse. I'm going to start the show in a second, but before we get into that, if for those watching on Facebook Live, if you have ridiculous party stories like having to tend to your and the way this happened, by the way, is Natalia wasn't feeling well. I did all of the preparations for the evening. Then she was, I think she was discussing with Megan. Was she talking to Megan?
Yeah, I think so.
She was talking to your girl, and then instantly just turned green and sprinted upstairs as fast as she could.
And I can confirm it was not food poisoning because everything was delicious.
Yeah. And then also I was sick for a week afterwards. So for anyone who's got crazy Super Bowl stories, crazy stories about parties that did not go well, feel free to type them into the chat. We will absolutely get to them, and we'll do that after we get to our first guest who joins us today on the
Hello?
Gentleman Call Line. It is Jad Aridi. Jad, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Not bad. Jad, the latest in the person not to follow the instruction of wait till Peeze introduces you before you say hi. It's not just you, buddy. We got an old Facebook picture of you on the screen here. You're holding a garden gnome, and it's in black and white. So you are an incorrigible hipster in the picture. But I will say, you don't look a day older than you were in this picture. So, not bad.
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations on the eternal youth.
Hey, the secret is the haircut.
That's fair. That's fair. How's everything going, buddy?
Good. Injured right now, but other than that, life is good.
Yeah. So what happened?
I was playing for a week, and I felt my hamstring was a little stiff. Decided to play anyway, and then I decided to run a deep corner route from our own 20-yard line to catch a ball, and I was wide open, but halfway into my sprint, I just felt it pop, fell to the ground, and doing the rehab right now.
Ugh, that sucks, man.
That's rough. And
Yeah.
Do you have a timetable of like when you'll be better, when you'll be back to play? Like how serious is the injury?
I just saw the physio today. She told me next week I'm gonna start running.
Okay.
So, but then depending on how that goes, I might be able to play like in roughly a week, potentially worst case in 2 weeks.
So how badly do you think this hurts your Hall of Fame inductee from last year, where it's like, well, yeah, but now he's banged up, he's not good anymore?
It's okay. I'm 30 now, so it's okay. If I miss time due to injury now, it's all right. I was healthy throughout my youth. Now in my old age, if I'm banged up, it's okay.
My dude, if you think 30 is bad, it gets so much worse, I promise you. It gets so much worse as you move forward.
I'm sure it does.
We talked a bit about the Rockets' roster construction the past week on Calling the Audible. We talked about some of the lesser-known guys like Gabriel Poisson on the team, Raul Barudi as well. Yet we look at the results so far. You guys sit at 0-3 after a loss to Vinny's Huffman. When you guys built this team, did you think off the bat, well, this will be a competitive team, or well, you know what, this is an experiment. Let's see how well we can do with less of the big names.
It was honestly an experiment. I honestly hadn't realized how bad, not how bad, but how low 490 really is. Like, I was planning on putting our D1 Monstars team in, and then I realized how low the cap was for Tier 1, which caught me really off guard. So then we tried to see basically, like, okay, do we grab like 3 guys from Monstars and see what we could do, or do we just not play? So we decided as a team not to play. Then me and COG were both looking for a team, and then COG is like, hey, I bet I could convince Rod to play. We just need to find like enough guys that would be able to fit us into Tier 1. So then I just asked literally all the guys that I've played with in the past that I knew wouldn't mind, playing through a team that might struggle a little bit. So that's how like Kevin Gauthier was down, Boris was down, COG was down. Both Bekelis brothers were down, and then we were 7 and we're still looking for an 8th guy. And then we decided to just let's have fun, play the 7 of us, see how it goes. We'll see what kind of an experiment it would be having Rod play with less solid receivers and have fun and see what we could do.
And also, like, the other thing is, like, you go up against, so BYOB has Matt Rene, has higher division pedigree, then you face Junkyard Dogs. That's a team that's played together for a while, so perhaps you guys are on par or better than Junkyard Dogs as an overall talent, but just the fact that they've played together so long has made it so that it was a difficult matchup. And then Vinny's Huffman, it's a combination of both things, that they have high-end talent and FPF pedigree, and the fact that they've played together a long time. You got to see Vinny's Huffman firsthand. How do you feel about them now seeing Vinny Galano at the helm of the team that was led by Alex Hollowak this past season?
It's all right. I mean, Vinny did a good job. He had a couple plays that worked, and he just stuck to those plays most of the game. Credit to him. He saw a weakness in our defense and picked on it, and it worked really well for them. he's a shifty guy, Vinny. You know, our rusher got him a few times, but it's not easy. Our rusher, you know, he's a lower division rusher. He's not used to rushing QBs that have the experience that Vinny does. So
Who is your rusher, by the way?
Boris Balour.
Oh, Boris Fuller. Okay.
Yeah, so he's been rushing in FPF for maybe 2-3 years now, 2-3 seasons now. So he's still you know, I would say like a rookie when it comes to rushing, but he does a pretty good job. I mean, Vinny's Huffman, they're good. They're a well balanced team. They have almost everybody on the team has solid hands. They run good routes. They have good chemistry, and I think that's
You said almost everyone. You said almost everyone. Who's the guy who doesn't have good hands on Vinny's Huffman?
I don't know. I mean, most of the guys off the top of my head have really solid hands.
Well, let's clean this up then. So we have Corey Wawowski, GM Kalethris, Jordan Allard, Justin Blanchard, Marco Bertoldi, Nicky Papich, Ryan Edinson, Sean Avram, Terry Tam, and Vinny Guano. Which one of them are you throwing under the bus, Jad?
Terry Tam, 100%.
There we go. Yeah, that's what I thought. Makes a lot of sense.
Is Terry in studio today?
No, it's just me and Eagle.
I'm sure he'll message us on the side to give you shit.
Not sure.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I love Terry still.
So looking at how the division is being split up, you guys look to possibly be dropping into a lower tier. Do you think that you'll be a team that'll dominate in that lower tier, or do you think that you're sort of going to be where you belong because of the fact that you guys took chances on some lower division players and guys that Rod doesn't necessarily have the best familiarity with?
I think we'll be right where we belong. Rod's great, but you know, I mean, you'll ask. I have guys on my team like that tell me that they don't want to play offense because they feel bad they're gonna drop balls. You know, so that's gonna happen. You know, and like going into it, we all knew that's how it was gonna be, and it's fine. I think if we drop down, which we most likely will because we're 0-3, I think we'll still face adversity. And I think it's fine. I don't think we're going to dominate. I think it'll be competitive, and I mean, I don't bank on anything. Nothing's in the bag. No matter how low we drop, I'm not sure if tier 1 splits into 2 or 3 tiers there, but I think we'll be right where we belong with competition that'll be roughly at our skill level.
We see All Hooks moving up into tier 1. They're a team that's been, sort of hovered around Division 5, Division 4 in the past. Now they're thrust into tier 1. Seal Living at quarterback. They're young, they're fast. At first, people looked at it and like, oh man, they don't really belong here. But, losing 34-33 Junkyard Dogs. They lose 40-39 against STL. And they lose 47-43 against BYOB. They have you guys up next. Have you seen All Hooks play before? Can you give us some insight as to how a team is able to compete with some of this higher division talent so recently appointed into a high division?
I mean, I've seen a couple of them play. I know they're good. Like you said, they're good. They're fast. They're young. They're still a little rough around the edges. But I was talking with my teammates about it last week, and this is the type of game we expect. All-out offense. They like to go deep. They like the big plays, which is what a lot of young, fast, athletic guys are into. They're less about proper timing, running routes, drive the field. They like those big plays. They like the flashy plays, and they're athletic enough that they don't have to be organized on defense. That they make up for what they lack in organization by athleticism and speed. It should be a fun game, like with the experience we have, we kind of have a game plan of how to contain them. But I mean, they're probably younger as a whole and faster as a whole, so it should be a fun game. Should be a fun game.
Week 1 game of the week actually featured All Hooks versus STL. And in that game, you saw Theo Laving basically running and dancing around Terrence Adams. Like, Terrence looked lost out there in coverage. He just couldn't contain him at all. And Theo was getting yards after yards after yards on just, getting out of the pocket and either taking off or chucking it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. That's when, you have a young QB with a young core. I mean, they're fun to play against. They're fun to watch. Should be a fun game.
So, given the fact that they're rough around the edges, and they've lost these close games, and you're going to face them next. Let's say they beat you guys next week. Let's just say, just as a point of contention. I don't think it matters too much. You guys are probably going to end up in the same postseason bracket anyway in the next round. Yeah. But let's say, just for argument's sake, they beat you guys next week. Given the information that you've acquired from seeing all hooks play, given their speed, their athleticism, in a traditional season, traditional winter season or traditional spring season, 1 through 5, A through E, where do you think they can compete? And by that I don't mean dominate, go 8-2. Where do you think is a division they can win between 4 to 6 games?
I haven't played against their team yet. I would probably be able to answer that question better after I see them play against my team. Yeah, but I think on paper they could be fit for Div 2 probably. They could win 4 games in Div 2. I have no doubt about that.
That's impressive. Again, considering this is not a team that's played together for a long time. I will share one story about Theo Leving, if you'll permit me, Jad. He was subbing with lightweight one season when I was playing with lightweight. Simon Dagenet, of course, the quarterback of that team. And Theo Levine was throwing balls, warming up with guys, running routes. And he threw me a ball from basically, past the end zone into my hands at center field. And the ball never got higher than 7 or 8 feet off the ground. Like, just fired it at me. And I was like, man, I haven't caught a ball thrown that hard from someone in a long time. So it's a guy who, yes, he's known for running, but he's got a heck of an arm too. Definitely impressive talent. And I think that's the thing that makes a difference. Let's say when you see them and you see some of the other low division teams struggling to make it up past Division 3. When you have a quarterback who can really rifle it, that's what it takes. Once you get to like even up to Division 3, you need to be able to fit into tight windows. And I think Theo Leving is that guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what I tell QBs from lower divisions that want to move up, even QBs that I've played with that moved up to higher divisions, the main thing I tell them is like, listen, guys, the biggest difference between the lower divisions and the higher divisions is you got to put more zip in the ball and be able to fit the ball in the tighter windows, because you got to be able to stretch the field. And when you have athletic guys playing coverage, you really have to exploit those tight windows that you have to get the ball into. So yeah, I agree. Like, that's why I think he would be fine playing in this too.
Then how did Rosenblatt do it?
Rosenblatt, I mean, he moved up, and the thing is, Rosenblatt can zip the ball. He can put it into a tight window. The thing is, he doesn't do it often enough. And when I played with him, when we played in Tier 2 or even in Div 3, I kept telling him, Jeff, like, when you see that route developing, don't float it. Just zip it in. It's a TD every time. And he started doing it. He started doing it. He knows, but the thing is,
but there is a margin. I mean, and famously, I used to make fun of the keyport lock offense and so on and so forth. And
of course.
The thing is, in reality, I like to do it a lot, and I've actually noticed the difference. It's just a fun narrative to play along with. But definitely, he looks a lot better. And look, he's a guy who constantly complains, by the way, he should be in a lower division, yet he beat Kevin Wyeth last season. So, I mean,
I know.
It's tough to make that argument with that information in mind. Jad, how is it like being the best-looking Aridi brother?
I mean, it's good. It's good. It has its pros and cons. GM broke my nose a few years ago now, so after that, I don't know if I'm still the best-looking Aridi brother.
Was it jealousy?
No, of course not.
I'm gonna go with jealousy.
No, I don't think so. I think it was just clumsiness on both our behalf, because we're on the same team.
Your brother's selling your safety out online here, eh?
He's what?
He's selling your safety out. So he's like, how much to hurt him here? Yeah.
That's why he tried hitting me a few seconds ago.
I'm glad it's all working out.
Zach Zwerin is saying step on your foot, but I think you're in the car, so that might be a bad idea, right?
Yeah, because I stepped on Ryan's foot last week. I think I injured him long term. I'm not sure.
So wait, are both the Reedy brothers hurt? Is this like a family play?
Yeah. Coincidentally, we're both hurt.
That's pretty awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Sorry to hear, guys. Obviously, we hope you get better. So just quickly, of the teams you have faced, I'm sorry, we got a little bit of a connection issue here, but you faced Junkyard Dogs and you faced BYOB. Let me start with Junkyard Dogs. What is it about them specifically that give you guys a tough time in your matchup?
I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. I think from in that game, I think we shot ourselves in the foot more than anything else. Having guys that don't normally play offense, playing offense, that kind of hurt us. We were in it to the very. We could have won the game on the last play of the game. I think we had the ball. We got the ball back with a few plays left. They're a good squad, but I think of all the teams we've played so far, like not to take anything away from them, they're very good. But I think that of the games we've lost, that's the one we should have won.
Yeah. And in that first game against BYOB, you saw Laurent Foucault go off for 2 touchdowns. Matt Lepage, Steve Osman, of course, led the team in receiving that game. Who is Matt Rene's top threat, you think, for BYOB? If you have to do the Belichick thing and take one guy away, who is it?
I would say it's probably Matt Lepage. He's just a stud on both sides of the ball. I've played with him. I played with him a few years ago, played against him a lot more lately. The guy's super underrated, man. He runs crisp routes, goes up for balls, very aggressive on defense. He's a top level guy in FPF, 100%.
That's awesome. So Eagle has this generic question he tosses every time we have a guest.
Well, it's like Mo when he used to do the interviews for the finals where he'd ask you, you're going to win because blank, and we all made fun of him for it. So I am now that guy. So, Jad, tomorrow, Rob Campana decides, you know what, screw it, I don't want to run this league anymore. Jad, you're the next person in line. So you take over. What's the first thing you change, or what's the rule of the day that you want to get rid of?
Oh, the rule of the day I would get rid of. That's a tough one. Let me think about this for a second. It would probably be I would cancel that new rule that you guys made about the ball getting tipped.
Yes, it's
where
stupid.
The ball is
It's already gone. Consider it gone.
Consider it gone. There's 2 voters in this room that weren't there last year. It's going to be changed, I promise you.
That's another thing you can blame GM for. So your nose and this stupid rule.
No,
seriously.
Listen. I love the rule, but I think it shouldn't be black or white. It should be gray. The refs should have room for interpretation if it was intentional or not. That's the only thing.
That's the thing is, referees are judges, right? They're there to make judgment calls. And if we remove that ability from referees, then what's the point? Jad, one last question before we let you go. Why are you holding a garden gnome in this picture?
It was the theme of my graduation. I graduated in landscape architecture. So the theme is we decided to make our grad party super tacky. So we had about 300 of those gnomes around our faculty for our grad. So I just had to pose with one of them.
That's the strangest drinking game I've ever heard of.
Imagine a gnome full of liquor. That would be awesome.
No, not full of liquor. There was no liquor in the gnome. It's just our party.
You're doing it wrong, man. Come on.
What?
Then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. I tried to convince him to do it. It was a no-go. Faculty didn't approve.
A no-go, so to speak.
Yeah, there we go.
Jad, thank you so much for joining us. Jad joined us on the DAZN guest line. Jad, we'll talk to you soon. Best of luck against all hooks. You'll need it.
Thank you. And, hey, just quick thing. Shout out to my Tier 2 solid group. They're a lot of fun to play with, too.
We lost half of that, but that's
You're going to have to say that again because you
shout out to Peeze.
I said shout out to my Tier 2 team as well, Chocolate Thunder. They're a great group of guys to play with.
Well, actually, since we got you here, let's ask you a question.
No, okay.
Because it's the next thing on the script.
Okay.
So,
Chocolate Thunder, not Barracudas.
Sorry?
Just Chocolate Thunder.
Oh, Chocolate Thunder. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
No other questions.
Okay.
Next time. Bring it back on.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks
Say
a
hi
lot,
to
guys.
Ryan for
Enjoy
us.
your evening. Absolutely.
See you guys. We had a story clarification during that call. Apparently, some details of my story were wrong. Eagle, do you have that information?
I do not. What story now?
The story I told about the Super Bowl party.
I do not have any new information. Nope.
I do.
Okay, why don't you tell the
I'm
audience?
trying to load it. I'm sorry, I can't control the internet speed.
In the meantime, while we do that, we did have a comment from a viewer asking, "Where are the weekly articles?"
So the article I'm reading is right above that, by the way.
Oh, I didn't see it
weekly
yet,
articles. Again, I apologize at the start the show, but you're probably just tuning in live. The weekly articles are coming out. They're not divisional. They are sort of thematic. Mine is coming out this week with some early season observations. And Marc-André Desaulniers is covering some wide receivers you need to pay attention to. If his isn't out yet, which I'm assuming is not because we got that question, it will be out shortly. Mine will be out tomorrow. We've had to deal with some technical aspects of getting this off the ground. It was an idea that we decided to implement without having the infrastructure to do so properly. That made it difficult, but we have that fixed, it seems, and the article should be coming out more regularly. So expect mine out tomorrow morning, and expect Marc Andre's to be out around that time as well. Apparently, it was Justin's girlfriend, Alex, who was talking to Natalia at the time she was sick.
Okay.
They were talking about wedding stuff, and then she had to go upstairs, and she was super embarrassed. And then my mom came upstairs, tried to go upstairs to say bye, and like, there's not a thing someone who's sick wants to do less than say bye to their family or in-laws. Like, that's not a thing, right? Like, if I'm sick, don't come talk to me. Don't just, if you can, put some soup outside the door, leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Let me just bury myself in my pillow and leave the TV on for background noise. That's all I want. So my mom did try to do a nice thing, but instead just made it more awkward, as she'd have to do. Again, if you have awkward, funny, ridiculous party stories, feel free to type them in the chat. We will clearly read them out loud. Eagle, we have any more comments?
Not that I see, anyways.
All right. Chocolate Barracudas, 3-0.
Yeah, I saw this week, and I don't know if it's a fluke, like their schedule is just way too easy, or if they've improved. And for context, last spring, they finished 3-7, made playoffs in E2, and then lost the first round. So there's definitely something to say about, okay, well, maybe they made progress, maybe it's a different roster. But I don't know. I'm impressed, I guess, is what I'm kind of getting at here. And I don't know if it's just going to continue and they're going to be at the top of the division or what's going to happen.
Well, so what's interesting is I had an opportunity to play against them last season, and they beat us in a tight game. It was a fun game, actually, really back and forth. A physical but not dangerous game by any stretch of the imagination. And I noticed when playing them that they're much better than I thought they'd be. Matthew Fernandez is a very good snapper. He's got great hands. Kind of the Peeze mold of snapper. Big dude, gets open, finds a hole in the middle. Not a guy who's going to beat you at the second level, but just consistent in helping move in the yards, helping move the chains. They added Chris Williams during last season, at the beginning of last season. Lucien Pierre, of course, is sort of the lifeblood of that team, but they're a team that will do a lot of 4-1, locking, or they did anyway, locking Chris Williams and locking Lucien Pierre on the outsides. Otherwise, there's still two dangerous lurking safeties. Chris Williams also dangerous in the flats as well. And when they added quarterback Sonny Elias, that's when they became a stronger team. And this is just a fantastic performance by him so far. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's completing nearly 70% of his passes, 127.5 quarterback rating. This is not the type of play we're used to seeing from Sonny Elias. Like, he is kind of playing in over his head. So I'm curious as well. I'm curious to see once they play in the qualification round against some of the better talent how they'll do. Because career-wise, Sonny Elias has 74 touchdowns, 43 interceptions. So definitely not a touchdown interception ratio that's anything close to what we've seen. He's completed slightly over 50% of his passes and a 77 quarterback rating. So it's a huge step up. Now, they played replacements that they played last season, so definitely the familiarity helps. I think replacements are a team that's kind of stuck in the mud and need to do something a little different to be a little bit more competitive. They played Lionhearts. It's still a new developing team. But the key here, they beat Los Bandidos this past week, Eagle.
And we talked last week about how Los Bandidos aren't really the same.
No, but they still, they
like
have.
You're talking E1 runner-ups, right?
Exactly. They have their quarterback, typically Francis de Rocher. In this game, we saw Loic Savoie quarterback. We know back from the Chile Concarne days, Loic is a very capable quarterback, and we saw the completion percentage drop slightly for Sonny Elias, but still efficiency. You look at this, they got maybe 5 or 6 drives, 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and limiting Loic Savoie to about the same. But the difference here, it appears to be that it was simply just converts, and that's something where Sonny Elias in the past struggled in red zone, forced passes. Now we're seeing just more confidence. whether it's connection now with Huey Isaac, new to the team, Lucien Pierre. Again, we talk about Matt Fernandez. Matt Fernandez, 3 for 18, 6 yards, but Eagles, sometimes with snappers, you don't realize how important they are towards sustaining drives, keeping the offense on the field. 6 yards a catch is not great unless it's 3rd and 4. Yeah. Unless it's 4th and 2.
And I always find, especially, on defense, you always forget about the snapper, right? Because you're always worried about the big play. You're playing off. You have him on the little slant or the quick out or something. And you're like, okay, fine, give him the yards. But then suddenly, it's a completion. It's a little shake on a DB, or he gets a little bit to the outside. And then, a 2-yard slant turns into a 6-yard gain. And they do that twice, or on 3rd down, like you mentioned, and you're continuing to move the chain. So it's always that thing where you also can't gamble on the center, because then you're leaving guys open on the bigger plays. So it's the poison you have to pick. It's the right choice, but then that's it. The snapper just eats up the field.
Absolutely, and
you made your career off of that.
Yeah, basically, I've done that over 600 times in FPF. So I mean, definitely, I can preach that. It's something like you said, Eagle. Defensively, it's difficult to cover. Yes, speedy rushers are difficult to cover, but it's different because you will account for a guy like Alex Pilon, for example, right? Because the speed's there, it's important, so your defense will just account for that in general. Les Mythiques, they're 0-3. They've only got 12 points for. They're now outscoring the Dolphins. They're now being outscored by the Dolphins.
Well, I mean, it took 3 weeks, right? So
I had a DM conversation with Etienne Duchesne. He did not ask me for nudes, so that's always impressive. That's a good way to keep.
It's a good start.
Yeah, you keep a relationship alive there by not being inappropriate in DMs. But he talked about how the team wanted to register for Tier 3, couldn't. It was too late, so they're going to be registering in winter, and be playing in the lowest possible division. Eagle, we've seen this with teams. We've seen, for example, with. One team that comes to mind is the original iteration of Junkyard Dogs, whatever they were called, Jason Rossi's team in that first season. They were a team that were sort of pushed into a higher division by necessity. We look at, a team like who am I other teams.
The Freshmen is a
Freshmen is another good example. Freshmen still haven't necessarily found their way. Who is the team with that blue team?
You're going to have to be slightly more specific.
Yeah, the Jordan Mitchell's team.
Oh, geez. I don't remember what it's called. But, yes, I know what you're referring to.
If only there was a way you could produce that information for me. These teams are teams that come to mind that struggled in their first season and got better quickly just by virtue of playing against better talent. They are called the?
Blue Chips?
Blue Chips, that's it. And that's a team where they went from getting blown out Division 2 to winning it. No, they made to finals in Division 4.
Yeah. Did they win the finals?
They lost to Pastor Prime in one of the best finals I've ever actually had the privilege of watching. And, we look at our backgrounds, Eagle. I played for, we always say, the worst team in the history of FPF.
I've had a bad seasons.
Well, your first season was what, 0-10?
1-9.
1-9. My first season was 0-9-1. So I mean,
I've had an 0-10. Have we had 2 0-10s? No, we tied a game.
We had. We had 1 0-10.
Nakatashi Survivors. That was Nakatomi. Yeah.
Was that 0-10?
I think that was 0-9-1. Did we tie a team? Did we go 0-10?
I don't know.
We did bad.
We
did so bad we forgot how bad it was.
Yeah, I forgot about that season entirely till just now. That was, of course, an interesting situation where quarterback goes down, backup quarterback goes down, third guy does his best. And, hats off to Dave Daou for doing everything he could with a team that was really not built for his skill set.
So how do you learn FPF quick? Because these guys, I mean, you have 5 games left. You really need to make strides in improving here, right? So is this what I'll call it a wash season already, and they're like, let's just do what we can and have fun with it? Or is it a building block where you can then come back into wintertime, understand the game more, and then basically be able to compete, obviously because you're in Division 6 then, but also just because you understand how FPF works and functions? Like, how would you treat this if this is your team?
So what I look at is, firstly, you need to learn how to play zone. And teams that come in here, they tend to focus a lot on man. Man defense is great if you win the matchups across the board. Most teams in lower divisions cannot. And also, at some point, quarterbacks call plays that defeat man, so you need to be able to at least switch the zones. Now and again, the the next thing is stick to learning zone because you're gonna need to know how to do it, and it's gonna be frustrating because guys are gonna blow assignments, and guys are not gonna understand how to play zones, how to be active in zones, but you won't get better by not having reps. Eagle, we have something on the screen that says right click to view instructions.
Yeah. So this is I'm actually gonna be doing. There we go. Now
All
I
right.
can actually draw. So this is a neat thing that we have here. So I can whiteboard on top of your face. So that's fun. So why don't we talk?
Can you give me back my facial hair that everyone seemed to like so much?
I mean, yes. So there you go.
Thank you. It's appreciated.
I mean, it's all right. No, but rather like okay. So let's talk about some zones. So what type of zones are we talking here?
I mean, just to be, I don't want to go into too much detail, but most of the guys here have played some level of Madden, or have some basic understanding of football. So cover 2, cover 3, you drop 2 safeties, you drop 3 safeties, line up 5 across. We saw untouchable balls in Division 3, Tier 3. You guys played against them this week. The reason why Pat Wright was able to tear them up in Tier 3 was simply because he was able to diagnose the defense very early on. Once he got the huddle, he basically knew exactly what defense was going to do. So you want to line up 5 across, and then this would be, for example, cover 2 with Eagles drawn on the screen. You drop 2 people, you have 3 playing in the flats. So the key, though, for this is the 3 playing in the flats, you need to pick up a route.
Yeah.
You can't just stand and watch.
Don't cover
nothing.
grass.
If there's no route in front of you and nothing is coming towards you, there's something behind you. So either pick up the first route you see in front of you, don't follow them out of your zone. If they leave your zone, release, and then look to see what's behind you, because there will be something coming in behind you. So that, and then cover 3 is the opposite, where you drop 3 guys, and those 3 guys, this is something you do when you're expecting teams to attack deep, or you're playing against a guy like François Martin, for example, who this is the only coverage you'll ever need because he doesn't want to throw hooks all day. So just do that over and over and over. There's some more complex zones as well, and I won't get into that. In my article, actually, we saw Lockdown winning their first game, but I'm going to criticize their defense in the article you're going to read tomorrow as being too static.
You should.
And it's sort of their defense is a throwback to FPF 6 years ago, which doesn't work anymore because quarterbacks have gotten so good in FPF. It's absolutely astounding. The next thing is figure out who your quarterback is, give him as many reps as possible. If the guy isn't on your roster yet, find him. If he is on your roster, just give him as many reps as possible. Also, talk to people. This is a league where we weirdly like talking about FPF. We like talking about a recreational sport. If you want proof about that, there are literally hundreds of people who watch this podcast every week. So given that people are that dedicated to this league, I promise you people are more than willing to help. If you see me at the field, if you see Eagle at the field, if you see other players at the field, feel free to engage in conversation. Feel free to reach out to us by email, by text. Any way you can. We do try to answer it as quickly as possible, and we will do our best to get to those requests. Eagle and I often go help out new teams by showing up, coaching them up. We've done that for Lionhearts. We've done that for Brewers. Brewers saw some postseason success, as did Lionhearts, making it to the playoffs in their second season. We've done this with a lot of teams. 5 years ago, Eagle himself came to help out my fledgling team, Punch Panda, as well as a guy named Alex David. Alex David was an experienced player who came on our roster, and in one season we went from a team that was 0-9-1, and next season we were 7-3, and earned a playoff berth in our second season.
And we're going to start seeing it probably in about a couple months, like right before winter starts. But there's always teams looking for scrimmages or partners to basically play games with. And eventually, you either build relationships so you can build teams together, or just kind of OTA stuff where you kind of get together in a park. So you're all on the West Island or East End or Laval. You guys go on a Saturday, 1 o'clock, and you just play some football. You teach each other a couple things like, okay, here's how you run your comeback route, or, put your ball here on this play, or on against this defense, here's what you do, or shoot this route or shoot that route. So yeah, you kind of have to just develop and kind of understand things, especially if you don't have a football background. Watching it on TV and thinking you know what a slant is versus running the slant yourself is a very different experience. So you gotta get there. It's gonna take some time, but you guys are gonna be okay.
We got a comment that unfortunately, Eagle, the Facebook Live.
I know.
This thing is lagging. It will be posted on YouTube tomorrow. So we try to do Facebook Live to get some of the interactions. I'm going to go ahead and say it's not our fault. I'm going to blame you, Terrence Adams. Stop trying to cash in on those AOL discs. How many guys in this league do you think are too young to know what AOL discs are?
You know what? More than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, probably, right? Probably. Eagle, did you get a chance to watch anything in Tier 2?
Actually, not so much this week. I really had to come in and leave. Tier 2 actually for me is the least interesting, if this makes any sense. I find like it's very kind of parity across the board.
Mm-hmm.
There's no teams that are kind of a pure standout.
That does mean that we're going to see upsets, right? So, like, I saw a game, for example.
But is there really an upset if you don't really know who the favorite is?
I mean, ISUP is the favorite.
Are they, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are, obviously. I mean, ISUP has a ridiculous roster. We've talked about them at length in previous podcasts. But I thought Diablos, for example, were going to be a strong team. They went up against Mean Machine, who hadn't won a game yet. And Mean Machine completely neutralized Matt Lepage, allowing just one catch for 5 yards. And then on top of that, they find themselves, Diablos now, at the bottom of the collector's pool, having allowed 120 points. I don't think any of us saw like they're a Fall Cup winner, right? And as much as we like to joke about François Martin because he's one of our buddies, he's a guy from the media. He has a good sense of humor. He takes it well. You see Tencent Hammocks, you see Diablos at the bottom of the collector's pool. Yeah. So I mean, that's where the parity makes things interesting. Outlaws 1 and 2. At the same time as Blackouts, a team moving up from Division 6 at 1 and 2. So I think there's a lot of interesting stories here. We talked about Jad Aridi's team, Chocolate Thunder. They're finding themselves at 1-1-1. So I mean, there's just a lot of odd situations. After you get past ISUP, ECW, Team Ethnic, yeah, you don't know anything. Like that's where the parity makes things interesting. Now, if we look at the Dakula pool, we see 3 teams at 0-3. We see Les Mythiques, you see the Bruins, you see Dream Breakers. At the bottom of the collector's pool, you see Supply and Command, Tencent Hammocks, Diablos 1 and 2.
Well, there's actually like 6 teams that are 1 and 2.
I mean, I just picked 3 and 3 for symmetry. But yeah, Mean Machine are 1 and 2. Outlaws are shockingly 1 and 2. And Blackouts 1 and 2. Well, Blackouts, again, I'm going to give Blackouts credit, by the way, only allowing 87 points in 3 games.
It's funny though, because you say that. Look at the other teams like Warriors 67, Grokok 71, Me Machine 74. So the 76 from Outlaws is actually not that good in comparison.
No, but I was saying
it's not bad.
No, but I was saying from Blackouts because Blackouts moved up from Division 6.
Yeah.
So sorry, from Division E. So to move up from Division E and allow only 87 points as you're facing better quarterbacks, right? You'd expect them to struggle somewhat. And look, 87 is not amazing. It's almost 30 a game, but they're better than Supply and Command, Tencent Hammocks, and Diablos on defense. Is that something you saw coming into the season?
I mean, the short answer is no. But I mean, you say that, unless you're tier 1 and you're literally scoring every drive, unless you make like a huge mistake. Like I think that's the thing, right? In tier 2, you're likely to make the bad read or basically throw a ball into coverage or get stopped on 4th down. And so the score doesn't get run up as much, I find. Like, it's not like, okay, well, everyone gets 7 possessions and you score on at least 6 of them or whatever. So you're going to have the drives you miss. But that being said, having 30 points a game is still pretty high for Tier 2. Like, if you're allowing 30 points a game, you're losing those games.
Well, but the thing is, they've also... So, the only game they scored over 30 points was against Supply and Command, scored 38 points. But again, I'm not saying, hey, look at Blackouts, they're the best team in the division. I'm saying they're a team that moved up from Div E. And I mean, it's a team I played against in Division E, and I saw the improvement from one season to the next. And I'll admit it, I saw them, hey, this is easy prey. This is a team that doesn't know what they're in for in tier 2. And they're kind of holding on. Okay, first game they got blown up by Outlaws. Stephen Harpersod is a tactician. He tore up the Blackouts defense. That said, the only game Outlaws have won is game 1 against a formerly Division E team.
Yeah. And so Blackouts, just to put in perspective, in Div E allowed 208 points in 10 games. So 21 points a game, basically.
But against far worse quarterbacks in E2.
Yeah, I could say that.
So it's definitely, again, my point is that they're competing, that they beat Supply and Command and they lose by a score to Legro Cook, who are a good team. I find that to be particularly interesting. But so, like, given that you see all these 1 and 2 teams in the collector's pool, You then look at the Daklo pool, and you have a bunch of 0-3 teams, and you have 2 teams tied at 1-1-1. Which division do you think Eagle has the strongest of the bottom? So, like, is there just a lot of mediocrity in the collectors pool, or are all these teams competitive? And then vice versa, are these really weak teams, or is the top just much stronger in the Daklo pool?
I look at this, and then, okay, so Ice Up, Teen Ethnic, definitely strong. Mangoose, Les Peninsulas Leaf Sud, we kind of know them a little bit. Red Raiders, we talked about. Les Centaures, they're an existing team. Chocolate Thunder. So these teams, they're good. But then you look at, the collectors pool, ECW, Warriors, Lego Cook. My condolences, I think. Who's on condolences again?
My condolences is the team that's got it's called Benjamin McMahon, Corey Pecker.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Travis Moses, Johnny
That's a
Wilson.
good team. And then, Mean Machine Outlaws, Blackouts. Like, these aren't teams that you would expect to be over 500 in any division they play in, right? Like, for any of them to have a losing record, I mean, I think I draw the line at Supply and Command.
Well,
but
we know what the problem with Supply and Command is.
Yeah. So 1 to 7, I would say I expect positive records in the Colethith pool. If I go up and I look at the Daquila pool, maybe at Red Raiders is where you go positive.
Yeah, but I'm saying the opposite. Like, so I'm asking you a question you're not answering. I'm saying, is the collectors pool? Is there a lot of 1 and 2 teams because there's a lot of parity, or are they all just weak? And then vice versa for the Dakla pool, are the bottom teams that much weaker than the top teams?
No. So I think the bottom teams in the Daquila pool are underperforming because as much as the Bruins are 0-3, I think they should have won at least a game. Same thing with Dream Breakers. And then, if you look at the Collectors pool, I think this is where it's pure parity, right? Where you're beating up on each other and you're kind of just cannibalizing the whole results along the way. So I would say the teams are stronger in general in the Collectors pool, but because they're playing against each other, they're cannibalizing the results, and so it looks like the way it does.
Gab Wiseman, though, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions after 3 games.
I know.
That's
why. It's
so
disappointing.
Weird. That's so weird. 69 quarterback rating for Gab Wiseman. I don't understand. And I know they had the first game without Zach Swern, but still, like, you look at it, they lost to Chocolate Thunder, a team that's their only win, and then losing to Team Ethnic. That's nothing to scoff at, but it's just bizarre that like they lost to Centaur and Chocolate Thunder, and those are the only 2 games those teams have won. That I find that very, very surprising. Eagle, do we have time to get Moe on?
I'm trying to get him right now. I'm just trying to see if he's actually going to answer his phone, because you know how Moe is,
the worst
diva.
So soon we'll get to Moe. So like I said, some surprising outcomes this past week. The first of that, and again, Eagle, I know you said you didn't find it to be particularly surprising, but given the fact that Diablos did lose that third game, I find surprising. I found the fact that Tenson Hammocks couldn't get a stop on my condolences to be somewhat surprising. They lose 40-35. And we saw Outlaws not being able to deal with ECW's offense. I thought Outlaws would be favored in that game. Moe Khan joins us now on the DAZN guest line. How's it going, Moe Khan?
Very well, yourself.
Good, buddy. How you been? I haven't seen you all season.
Good. I know. I've been relegated to Lachine, 1 night a week only in Lachine, so I'm not out and about in Brossard or in Papineau this season.
Well, we got a picture of you up on the screen, Moe. Tell us about why you think white spandex is the best choice for you.
Look good, feel good.
Look good, feel good, play good. Right?
Of course.
Moe, so you've been at Lachine. I've actually been covering a lot of the stuff at Papineau. Obviously, that's where I spend a lot of my time. Can you talk to us about some of the games you saw this week, and I'll start interjecting with some of the questions about some of the teams that played.
Yeah, I've seen Vinny's Huffman play their first 3 games in Lachine, and every week they've gotten better. You look at Vinny Galano going back to quarterback this year, and I thought it'd be quite unique because he hasn't thrown, I think, almost a full FPF year, if not a year and a half, and he hasn't lost his rhythm. And this is a team that I thought has a good rapport of what they have. Mark Bertoldi was back this week. Terry Tam, I know we make fun of him, but he's had a very unique role with what he does on both sides of the football. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at Vinny's Huffman over here and what they built with this team, Nicky Papich being a guy that I really like and who's had a good season for the two teams he's playing for, there's some good weapons here, and I think they could definitely make some noise in a very tough con division that they're in.
Yeah, and you look, Vinny Galano's been able to find, he has, 5 receivers with at least 2 touchdowns, but the volume of the passing seems to be going mostly Justin Blanchard, Corey Wołoski, Nicky Papich, Sean Abram, of course, being the check down player in the offense. What do you think Justin Blanchard brings to this core in that he hasn't really played with this group a bunch in the past few seasons?
Well, it's JB. What's JB for Hall of Fame? We have the hashtag going on right now for him for the next couple of years until he gets into the Hall of Fame.
We dropped that one. Sorry, Mo.
That's all right, Eagle. You put it back up, Eagle. Put it on the poll, please. Should JB be in the Hall of Fame? Yes or no? I like what Justin brings to this team because his ability and like not to say that he lacked the athletic gods gift over here, but he is their most athletic player on both sides of the football, and the way he can cover the back end, he's almost a human eraser for this team, and how he eradicates deep plays that come his way, or he makes going from one side of the field to the other side of the field to make a play. So I think he's a really huge addition to the team, and he could be the difference maker in why they will advance deeper and deeper into the Fall Cup because of what he can do on defense and what he does on offense.
Mo, so what are some of the other teams you've gotten a chance to see?
Well, I seen STL. STL toyed with Junkyard Dogs the other night, and when you see how they took a season off from spring and came back, they look healthier, stronger. I spoke to Dylan Taylor about what it felt like not to play, and he goes, I feel refreshed. This team feels refreshed, and even though they've not played since April or late March, whenever their last game was in the winter season, they've not lost a beat. And the guy that I really like on this team that is a new addition is Andrew Carruthers. And I know he plays with Joseph Fazio and Carl Felice in other divisions, Peeze, but he's a guy that has had some big numbers on offense. He's been Dylan Taylor's go-to guy. Not to say he's still J 2.0, but he's had elements of making the big play, the clutch play for STL. And I just thought that what he brings on offense, and he's a wise veteran receiver that can definitely be a difference maker for them. He's a guy that I think could definitely have an influence moving towards the next round. And looking at what they did to Junkyard Dogs, they never were in angst in terms of where they were compared to where Junkyard Dog was in the football game. And Dylan Taylor looks like he's found his rhythm again and back in where he was before the season ended last year.
I talked to Royce Margin after the game. Some heated words between him and Jason Rossi. He was telling me though, like, he warned me. He's like, yo, before you talk about this, it's no big deal. Like things got heated in a huddle. We're passionate guys. Just a disagreement between teammates. You've seen teams compete at the highest level, Mo. For those who don't know, Mo was the original rusher for Montreal's finest. When you see that, do you think there's a scenario where that can't be healthy? Do you think that sort of helps give a team like Junkyard Dogs their edge? Do you think it hurts them, or do you think it doesn't matter at all?
Well, when Rory asks or tells Rossi to bleed my shank, it gets pretty intense. And like they had to blow up because what happened was in that football game, Rossi threw the last player or second to last play INT. And Roy felt that Ross he gave up on the play. That's what he essentially said to him on the sidelines after the play. And it got heated, and I had my back towards the discussion with those two, and I turned around, and Rory literally looked like he was about to Hulk out like a cartoon character and go at it with him, but they had to be separated by their teammates. And Rob White, being the Kofi Annan, the former UN leader, was able to calm him down and get things organized. And they might play it down with what happened, but this isn't the first time Royce Merjan has had issues with Jason Rossi. We've seen it in years past on previous Junkyard teams, but you wonder for the long-term growth of where they are, can this still coexist? I'm not saying it's Antonio Brown versus Big Ben over here, but can they still coexist and have the same success? Because they had a chance to get back in this football game, but unfortunately for them, they came up too short against STL. Yeah,
and look, sometimes it's just how teammates communicate. You should hear some of the stuff I say to Eagle off camera. A lot of people.
Oh, you guys are like the original Rossi and Royce Merjan over there,
Mo, anybody else catch your attention?
Yeah, you know what? Big win for Dead Prez. This is a team led by Jeff Rosenblatt, and they took on Run and Gun, and they won by 5, but this game was nowhere near indicative of what the scoreline was. with this being a 5-point victory. Dev Prez jumped out to a 2-score lead after the first half. They had a 3-score lead at one point. And you know what? Funny enough, Kendall Myers, who plays on Dev Prez, said we don't want to go to the relegation round. And they proved a point that they are not going to be pushovers in the last game or two that they have left on the round robin portion. And I just thought Corey Packer did not look like himself. I know he was a bit banged up playing in KTFL prior to that. He even said I was a little bit banged up. But I just thought that he left too many plays on the football field. And Anthony Van Jam did get banged up towards the end of the football game and was not really effective. But I thought, full props to Jeff Rosenblatt, he really controlled the game, the narrative of how that unfolded for the team. And John Laristis, I know you know him very well, as well as Eagle. Like, he had 10 catches, but half those catches were for first downs, and even touchdowns included. So I thought this is a good win for Dev Prez and still keeps them within range of maybe advancing to the next round.
Do you think? What do you think of John Laristis in the pantheon of underrated FPF receivers? Because to me, I always say that if his name was anything else, he'd be in the FPF Hall of Fame already. But John Laristis is a guy I've always appreciated. He's been a teammate of mine a long time, a friend of mine for a long time. So maybe I'm a little biased, but do you agree with me, Mo, that he is probably the most underrated talent in FPF?
He definitely is. I'm sure Gino DeFazio will be crying until he can no longer cry that he let him go, and how that played out for Gino.
Does Gino DeFazio have tear ducts?
I don't know. Put on the poll, Eagle. Does Gino DeFazio have tear ducts? Yes or no? Is he gonna do it? I don't think he is.
I'm not gonna do it.
You know he's not gonna do it.
Yeah, knowing Eagle, he's probably playing a Pokemon, like Man of War.
Absolutely.
You're not wrong.
Some E game. I'm not far off from the whole thing here, but like John is a guy that he's got incredible hands. He's very reliable in the way he does. I mean, he's probably one of the most efficient 5 to 10 yard players in terms of what he can catch the football as a radius. And look, I mean, this is a guy, if you look at his stats overall, Peeze, I mean, he's had some pretty strong numbers as a receiver, wherein overall he's ready for this, Peasy? 1,200 receptions. So he's at the 1,200 reception mark. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Almost 12,000 yards receiving and almost 270 touchdowns. So he's put up some great numbers here. But the question is, you're right though. Do people recognize what he does in terms of the short to dirty work that no one will give the hoopla to, as opposed to the Pat Jeromes who will make those highlight grabs game in and game out?
So that's the thing is one of the ways I approached my voting for Hall of Fame, Mo, I've said it publicly on the show before, and I'll say it for new viewers. I look at guys. Across the board based on their stats alone. I have Eagle provide me the list of players without names but with the stats, and I remember coming across this one stat line. I'm like, oh, at the time I think it was Pat Jerome who wasn't in the Hall of Fame yet, and I was like, this must be Pat Jerome, and then.
Right.
Eagle unveiled who I initially pegged to vote for, and that man was John Laristis. And I said, my God, he's put up ridiculous numbers and doesn't necessarily have the championship pedigree. Hasn't played on always the best teams, but man, his individual accomplishments have been amazing.
Amazing. Hey, put on the poll, Eagle. If you blindfolded Peasy, would he be able to feel the faces of John Laristis and Pat Jerome and know who's who?
I mean,
yes or no?
Wouldn't want him touching people blindly in the face. I mean, that sounds kind of sexual.
Well,
I don't know if they'd be okay with that.
He can touch the face and feel like, is this John Laristis' face or is this Pat Jerome's face?
I'm pretty sure he can figure it out. Yeah.
I mean, look, all I know is, that's an interesting threesome of people.
Yeah.
That's one way to put that.
You said something earlier which I found interesting, which you said, Dead Prez is trying to avoid getting relegated. Do you really feel that going into the qualification round in the second tier, or basically the relegation bracket, is like a death sentence for a lot of teams? Because, so tier 1, for example, right? Right now, almost guaranteed to make it in there is All Hooks and Rockets because they're 0-3. Run and Gun, Urgence Mythiques, and Dead Prez are 1-2, so right now they'd be there. And then you're looking at one of the 2-1 teams, so effectively one of the other ones except for Vinny's Huffman. Now, granted, week 4 has to go through to figure it out to get the final ones, but I mean, it's not really all that bad, right? Like, you can go 4-0 in the second round and then make your way into the final tournament. So do you really feel like teams should be avoiding relegation in general?
No, I think teams shouldn't avoid that. I mean, losing is not winning, my friend. I don't know if you
Losing
I
is
don't
not
know
winning.
if you live by losing is not winning, my friend.
That's
not
why
how
they
you
work.
go
That's
in
why you
life.
work on TSN, for this expert analysis. Losing is not winning.
That's what I do. Losing is not winning, my friend. Put that a poll, please. Is losing
Is
is not
losing
winning? Is that a cliche? Yeah. Is it cliche? Yes or no?
Is it factual?
So, I just think, in the case that we have now with how this is has unfolded for some teams here in the first 3 weeks of the season, the Basman Jam pool still is up for grabs. I mean, Run and Gun and Erdos Medic can still make a run up the top 3, top 4. Depred's still in there. But I look at Con pool, and I think we have our 4 teams that are legitimate that are going to go through. I just think that if you go into that relegation round, quote unquote, yeah, it gives you that hope that, hey, you might roll through some weaker teams here, which may prove not beneficial because of what you're trying to do to develop that rapport for the winter season. But, if you backdoor your way through, like I said, losing is not winning. But, hey, if you win, you get the ring on your finger.
One quick rapid-fire question, Mo, before I let you go. What is the team that surprised you from all the teams you've seen so far? What's the team that surprised you most with their ability? In any tier.
I think Rockets, I was a bit surprised. They're 0-3, and they look like an 0-6 team. That's how they've been, and I'm disappointed because Rod Mashtuk, who did take a season off from FPF from spring, I mean, he's assembled himself a pretty solid team with the Bacalis boys. Jad Aridi, who is banged up with the pull hamstring as we speak. They have Diza Gauthier. They have some guys who are legitimate players in Divisions 2, if not 3, and to be 0-3 and to look rather pedestrian against Vinny's Huffman on Tuesday night, I was a bit disappointed by how they played, and I just think that maybe they can be that team that can backdoor their way through into the Tier 2 or second round of playoffs here. But that's a team that I'm a bit surprised about how they've done so far in the first 2 weeks of the season.
And is there a team that surprised you with how good they are?
You know what? I've had a couple of Tier 2 teams that have surprised me pretty well, and I look at Chocolate Thunder. Our boy Joe Kano, or Cano. What's it go by, Kano or Cano?
I always say Kano, and I think I'm wrong, but I'm going to stick with it.
I actually think it is Kano. If it was Kano, he'd be a Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah, but I think he wants to be a Mortal Kombat character.
I think it's Cano. I think it's Cano. All right, look, here's the thing about them, right? They see easy be 3-0. They were up against Ice Up in week 1, and they lost that game. They had a close one against Bruins in which they were up, and Bruins made a comeback and still won by 4. This week, they tied the Santal led by Jordan Rossi. I was a bit surprised by it because they had a 2-score lead in the second half and gave it away, and they ended up tying 31-31. This is a team that I think is good, but it could be much better than what they've shown so far. I like the core of this team. Kyle Pettis, who I think is underrated. We talk about underrated players. He's the guy that's one of the better defensive players in FPF. I know Jad Aridi wasn't there, as I mentioned before, but this is a team that should easily be 3-0 than what they are being 1-1.
Mo, I'm going to let you go right now, but before I do, what time is it?
8:40.
Oh, what time of the show is it? What do we do when what does Eagle say?
Games of the week.
It is?
Games of the week!
Thanks for joining us.
Oh,
man.
yeah, sorry. All right, man. Be good,
Talk to you
guys.
soon, buddy. Love you.
Be good. Bye.
So, yes, it is Games of the Week time.
yes, it is.
It's okay, Mo. We only did this for like 5 years.
I was sure he was going to get that. I was sure just by familiarity, the fact that he's been sort of FPF media longer than I have, right? So
Yeah, but I mean, think about it this way. How many times have you set him up for a sign-off and he has completely not understood what you meant?
yeah, to be fair though, Mo, the guy works really hard. And again, these are the compliments I can only give guys when they're not in the room. Mo works really hard, so he's one of those guys who's one-track minded. Is sports. So he has no cultural reference points.
All right, so let's go Tier 1. Since we talked about it, let's talk about the Rockets All Hooks game.
Rockets all hooks. I think Rockets are going to continue to struggle. All hooks are better than some of the high division teams think they are. That's why the games are as close as they are. And I think that the where Rockets lack is general team speed. So give me all hooks.
Let's go BYOB versus STL.
BYOB versus STL. I think STL's coming together. I like BYOB a lot. It's Matt Rene is the kind of guy who needs the right pieces around him and the right attitudes around him, and he has that with BYOB. But That said, it's also the case for Dylan Taylor and STL. Give me STL.
Run and gun versus Urgence Medic.
Urgence Medic has to figure it out at some point, right?
I mean, do they?
I don't know. I don't know who's going to be there. Give me run and gun just because the roster consistency is too much. I wrote a lot about one of their new teammates in Nicholas Gropini in my article this week that'll be out tomorrow. Remember, take a look at that. Nick Gropini, one of the better low division talents, making his name in a higher division early in his FPF career.
And bonus for Tier 1, Braves U versus 2HD.
I'm the biggest 2HD fan there is, right?
Yeah, but I don't
I'm
see
a
it in
teammate.
this one.
I'm a teammate of what's it called? I'm a teammate of Joey Taylor's in Tier 2. He's a good buddy of mine, but I don't see them beating Braves U. Give me Braves U. But he's gonna do a thing where he proves us all wrong again, right? Like that's what he does.
Yeah. Let's go. Chocolate Thunder versus Les Mythiques. Do you think they have a chance?
No, Chocolate Thunder. Les Mythiques, they're in over their heads. Again, take it as a learning experience, guys. Don't get down. Enjoy the games anyway. FPF is still a fun game.
Les Princes de la Rive Sud versus Dream Breakers. Can Dream Breakers get a win?
I think they will. Prince de la Rive Sud are a good team, but I don't think they're that much better than Dream Breakers. And the fact that Dream Breakers haven't won yet, to me, is an anomaly.
Mangoose versus Team Ethnic.
Team Ethnic continue the roll. They're going to end 4-0.
And let's go Les Gros Coq versus Tents and Hammocks.
Tents and Hammocks 1 and 2. Les Gros Coq. I don't know. Well, who's rushing for Tents and Hammocks? Is it Brandon Aylward?
I would guess. I mean, I don't even know.
They need to rush their best talent because, man, Dom Lefort is a monster. He's the fastest dude I've ever seen in FPF. Period. He's fast. He's like if Alex Pilon was quarterback and decided to be a running quarterback.
That's a bad idea.
That's what it feels like. So you need to get your best athlete on him.
Let's go Tier 3. This is just for fun. 1 and Niners versus Lockdown. I will not be there, so you have a chance.
So look, 1 and Niners. It's a team where the quarterback can play quarterback, and the guys are learning, right? And much like the advice I gave to Limitsik, Dubé, you want to learn to play quarterback. That's how it is. It sucks, man. It really sucks when you're learning to play. There's gonna come a point where it all kind of makes sense to you, and it sucks a little bit less. But when you first start playing quarterback, my God, is it horrible because you have to go back and face the huddle every time, and nobody's actually judging you, nobody's getting upset, but you feel it. So in the Battle of the Cannolis Part 6, I think Lockdown will take it. It's weird you make me pick my own game.
No, I was just for fun because I wanted to make you struggle a little bit.
Who are you picking?
I'm picking Lockdown.
Sorry?
I'm picking Lockdown. Los Bandidos versus Leprechauns. I do have a surprise for this one. We do have audio provided to us from Chris Rivet of Nim Jemkowski from the Leprechauns. I haven't listened to it, so I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know what the context is.
I also haven't listened yet. I had such a crazy day.
So you ready for this?
Yeah,
ready for this surprise? All right.
What you saying, Nim?
What did you say to Chris?
Okay. You want to hold that box with us?
Yeah. Absolutely.
For future reference, Chris, please edit the audio before you send it to us.
Or speak it to the mic.
I think they're waiting for a play.
It's going to do a focus, and when I say go, it's going to be recording.
All right. What do you want me to say?
Anything you want.
Just follow what I'm doing. We're going to have a conversation.
Cool.
Really quick.
Cool.
Just going to fix the focus. My bad, man.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time, man.
Okay.
Quality content here at Calling The Audible.
So to be fair, in Chris's defense, this does seem like
All
a
right, so I'm
production
here with Nim Jemkowski from the Leprechaun. Nim?
Yes, sir.
I've seen you posted all over Facebook, all over my poll. Got what you want, game of the week.
Here we are.
So can you let the people know what can we expect tonight from the Leprechauns?
Well, here's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for a W, big W, a statement game. We've noticed we haven't been getting that much respect on the podcast and stuff like that, and that's cool. We get it. We got to earn our respect, and we're hoping to do that tonight. First step. Another big win, go 3-0. Give them an L in the loss column, and we have our, lucky charms here. for our leprechauns.
He brought a box.
These guys are going to bring it home for us. Swatch. We'll put on a show for you guys, I promise.
Wearing pajama.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
And with that, they lost 28-18. Wonderful.
I was at that game. Marc-Andre Desaulniers did not look great early on. Then he sort of caught a vibe, but then guys were dropping passes late in the game. Like, it out of sync the entire game.
So this week they're playing Los Bandidos.
Yeah, without I'm gonna assume Loic Savasteguin isn't there as well as Vincent Benjamin. So in that case, give me Leprechauns.
Next game, Honey Martin versus Voodoo.
I like Honey Martin, man. I watched them play this week. Great dudes. Told me to check out the bar of the same name. They're the sponsors who got them the shirts and all that. So I'm gonna go Honey Martin because I like alcohol. Also, I think that they're a talented team that can give Voodoo a test.
Let's go Johnny Fireball versus Scranton Stranglers.
I feel like you're making this up.
No, these are actual names.
I'm kidding. I'm always going to go Scranton Stranglers because just simply the best team name in the history of FPF.
And last game, Trailer Park Boys versus Untouchables.
Who is it, sorry, against Untouchables?
Trailer Park Boys.
Oh, that's not going to be a fun game. Trailer Park Boys are a team they're not the most efficient team, but they capitalize when you make mistakes. Untouchables make a lot of mistakes. Hopefully they learned a lot in their loss to lockdown this week. Although I feel like losing lockdown doesn't really have you learning anything so much as it just makes you cry. Eagle, thank you for all the work you've done today. Thanks to Chris Rivet for getting us that audio, and thank you Ninkowski for providing that. Thanks to Moe Khan and to Jad Aridi
and Ryan Aridi, who I told to beat up his brother for money. So
thank you for prostituting yourself for violence. That's appreciated. But most of all, thank you all for letting me be myself.